Yo, what is going on, folks? We're here to check out the Age of Strife explained by an Australian. That's the homie Majorkill. I just cleared up watching his War in Heaven video, and I ain't gonna lie, man. Majorkill has emerged as my favorite Warhammer content creator. It's just not just between it's just the delivery, the sheer volume of content is absolutely amazing. And that's just that. Sometimes people keep recommending me other people for accuracy and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll check them out. I'm like, yeah, man, but like, they're not really that entertaining. You know what I mean? Respectfully. Majorkill, he's just fantastic. So my top three right now is definitely Majorkill, West Hammer, and Bricky. But West Hammer has more videos for me to like go off of. Bricky doesn't seem to have that much videos. West Hammer has a lot though, but I gotta have energy to watch West Hammer's video, but not too much energy. And like if it's like Loot 09, I gotta really got energy. But I actually have some Loot 09 videos on my playlist because he does give fantastic information. But I like these 10-minute videos, so let's just jump into it.
G'day, guys and gals.
If you haven't subscribed, but you like my content, y'all already know what to do. Do that. I'm trying to get this channel to 20,000 subscribers. If you guys see me typing away, do know that I do take notes. It's just something I do because I ain't going to remember all this, man. I just got done checking out the neck runs. I got to write things down of importance or of significance to me. And let's do it.
The Age of Strife was a shit time to be a human. I mean,
Hell
any
yeah.
time in Warhammer 40K is a shit time to be a human, but this was bad. You think the fall of Cadia and the subsequent formation of the Great Rift is rough? Bro, the humans in the Age of Strife would genuinely give up their left nut to swap the current 40k problems for their 5,000 year shit show. 5,000 years of no Astronomicon, no Space Marines, no Imperium, tons of demons, tons of orcs, and tons of turbo penetration.
They're like, give me that
Mankind
again.
was lambs to the slaughter, and get slaughtered they did. The Age of Strife was like a level 5 character spawning in a level 80 zone with no gear. Very, very bad. Before we get started, we did hit 200k recently.
Oh,
so
congrats! We're trying to do the same thing over here.
I took the foot off the gas and I breathed it in. It's nice, you know. I didn't think I'd ever get here. But the time for breathing is over. Wait, no. The time for not putting the foot on the gas is over. 200k is baby numbers and we have a whale to kill. Archer's in our sights and it's time to put him in our dust. So if you have a laugh, learn something interesting, crack a smile, or just feel bad for me, then slap that subscribe button. If we get enough people on board, we can do some seriously demented shit when we hit 300k. Hot tub stream, anybody? Today we'll go over what the Age of Strife was and
Good
what
for you,
caused
Major.
it. We'll then talk about how it ended.
How long ago
and
was
the effects it
200k?
still has on the Imperium to this day. Let's get into it. After
3 years
covering
ago.
the Dark Age of Technology, which was the direct precursor to the Age of Strife,
He doubled
it only
in 3
makes
years,
sense to
or
continue
tripled.
our dive into the history of 40k with a cheeky bit of continuity. If you haven't seen that video, which you should totally see that one right after this one, basically, the Dark Age of Technology was the golden age of mankind. This was the time where mankind invented shit, made friends with aliens, became gods, and then robots and galactic blood orgies ruined everything. That's not a punchline, that's just what happened.
Oh, look at this
Mankind
dude
their peak had
floating.
a bunch of killer robots doing everything for them. Apparently they didn't watch many movies growing up,
No.
because they were shocked and surprised when said killer robots went full Skynet on their ass. Mankind ended up victorious, but the war was so bad that most of their technology was lost and tons of people died. To make matters worse, the Elder had begun slapping that ass too hard, resulting in a new god beginning to form in the warp. This destabilized the warp and made warp travel extremely difficult, hence the human empire was cut off from itself. Isolated, weakened, and now with a spicier warp, mankind was in trouble, hence begun the 5,000 year period called the Age of Strife. The first big issue of the
Here is my question, and I'm sorry I didn't ask as much in the previous video. I guess it doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna do it in the other video. I'm gonna do it on both videos. The Age of Strife. They said that when the Eldar was made, though, in the War in Heaven there wasn't chaos gods. They're not the four, warp gods. There was the chaos gods. There wasn't Nurgle. There wasn't Khorne. There wasn't Tisich. Rage. Changing Fate is T-Sich. Rage is Corn. Changing Fate is T-Sich or something. Oh, I got it. Because it was 3 and Slaanesh made 4. Ah, I know it. Yeah. Why was I trying to do 4 then add 5? Adding 5 would hypothetically be if the Emperor of Mankind became a god. I'm back. Corn, Seasitch, like teaching something. He changes your fate. He's rooting for the underdog. Nurgle, the pestilence, and then Slaanesh. So they said that, and when the War in Heaven was created, the first 3 gods didn't exist yet, right? They just didn't. And then they also say that the Eldar created Slaanesh. So it's like, at what point in time did the Chaos Gods get created? And I'm talking about Khorne, Nurgle, and, T-Sich, the underdog.
Age of Strife was
Anyways.
the demonic invasions. Now at this point, Chaos wasn't very organised. They didn't have cultists or space marines, so most of the demons that invaded humanity during this era were more like random evil warp entities rather than bloodletters or plague bearers. They also didn't just appear out of nowhere. The issue began when psykers began to get schizophrenia. Psykers had been around for a little while now, and a lot of humans thought they were pretty cool. After all, they can move shit with their minds and shoot lightning out of their assholes. I can imagine that some of the more progressive human worlds treated them like superheroes.
That makes
This wasn't
sense.
the case everywhere though. Less accepting worlds treated the psykers like witches and literally burned them at the stake.
Makes
now one would
sense.
assume that the worlds that treated their psykers well would be happy and safe, whilst the
No.
ones that treated their psykers like shit would get some kind of divine retribution.
No.
But actually it was the other way around. See, with Slaanesh soon to be born, Chaos was empowered, and demons began to possess most of the psykers at the time. The psykers didn't know
their
how to
races
prevent
improved to be
possession,
correct.
and they also weren't soul bonded with the Emperor, so they couldn't really do much about it.
They weren't
So yeah,
soul
imagine
bonded
if the
with
Justice
Emperor.
League appeared, saved the day for like 20 years, and then one day they all started contorting violently and begun feasting on the flesh of children. Quite a jarring experience, I would say.
Yeah.
As such, countless worlds were lost, as either the demon psykers tore them apart, or the psykers were turned into living chaos portals. The worlds that
Chaos
survived
portals.
had either genocided their psykers, such as night worlds, had a strong enough military to fight off the demons, like Mars did, or had
Mars?
psykers with incredibly strong wills / the knowledge to not become a chaotic bitch, like Prospero. This was the most extreme example of what could go wrong during this era. But
That's
many
crazy.
other
Look at
planets
these
suffered
demons.
devastation and destruction due to a significantly more mundane but equally terrifying method: starvation.
Oh.
Many planets in mankind's shattered empire were not self-sustainable.
Without the supply chain.
Maybe it was a mining world which relied on food imports.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a forest world that relied on imported medicine to deal with the world's bacteria and viruses.
Jeez.
Maybe it was an ice world. Thousands of planets worth of people were now cut off from trade routes, hence entire worlds starved, died of sickness, or froze to death, with absolutely nothing they could do about it. Attempts to flee these worlds and engage in warp jumps mostly resulted in horrific warp-induced death. To be honest, I reckon I'd rather take my chances fighting some demonic psykers than fighting my ever-dwindling supply of food, water, and medicine.
Yeah.
Most worlds mankind had were following this slow and steady collapse due to a lack of resources, and only survived due to the Great Crusade. Fulgrim's home planet had an extremely strict breeding policy, as well as the fact that pretty much everyone worked 24/7 to hold what was left of the shithole planet together. This was the case in most places. If your planet had resources and no psykers, you still weren't out of the woods yet. With mankind's fall, previously suppressed hostile xenos began to rise.
No.
Orc populations boomed and began wiping out entire human civilizations
Jeez.
as the increasingly sadistic Eldar began to raid the worlds for sport. Other horrifying xenos also joined in for the fun, and they enslaved, genocided, or preyed upon
The Emperor of
humanity.
Mankind really did
All in
save
all,
us.
A copious amount of strife was occurring. So what was Earth up to? Earth and Mars had been powerhouses and the capital of mankind during the Dark Age of technology after all. Well, everything on Earth, now called Terra, went to shit. It seems that small wars with Mars combined with a shitload of civil wars resulted in Earth becoming a fragmented wasteland where dozens of different techno-warlords vied for control of the planet. Mars kept itself busy by dealing with rogue AIs and putting down their demonic psychic populations, and they actually came out on top. However, by the time Mars had its shit together and went to visit Terra to see if they could reform the human empire, it was too late. There was nothing worth saving in their eyes, hence they returned to their red planet and began.
I know that things become better when the Emperor of Mankind comes, but I started feeling it from my folks, man. I was like, dang, I feel like this could have been avoided. Like, yo, y'all should have given the Necron the Necrontyr, some cancer medicine, and then so much of this stuff gets avoided. But whatever.
Plans of their own. The Marzi boys were even able to get a few expedition fleets out into the galaxy by waiting for temporary lulls in the warp storms. These expeditions would form Forge Worlds, which would remain a huge asset to humanity to this day. So how did the Age of Strife end? Did the Emperor end it? Well, kinda, but not really. The Emperor had been around for dozens of thousands of years by this point.
Oh.
He had seen the Dark Age of technology and humanity's fall.
Oh.
He had lived on Terra during its 5,000 years of civil war and collapse, yet
Oh.
he had barely done anything to intervene.
Why?
This was because during humanity's Dark Age of technology, the Emperor was either content with mankind's position and was happy to continue to watch from the shadows, or the Emperor knew he could not challenge mankind in its current state, so he needed to wait for the Age of Strife to occur before he could make his move. It may be it's even a combination of the two. Even though the Emperor's Crusade did mark the end of the Age of Strife, the Emperor had to wait for the warp storms to stop, otherwise he'd never be able to leave the solar system. The way the warp storms ended is actually quite ironic. See, as Slaanesh had been getting closer and closer to being born, the warp storms got worse and worse. However, on the moment of her birth, the psychic shockwave was so big that it blew away all the storms and it made warp travel available again. So the Emperor actually needed Slaanesh to be born before he could begin his crusade. Here's a good analogy. Imagine a super volcano that was going to erupt and had been spitting out a shitload of ash and soot, so much that it was impossible to fly a plane due to the sky being so full of this shit.
You need the explosion
just as
to
the volcano erupts,
clear all it away.
Drops a nuke on it, hence creating a mega ultra explosion that destroys China, but also creates a shockwave so big that it blows away all the soot and ash, making flying possible again, but getting rid of China. That is pretty much what happened as the birth of Slaanesh
China representing the Eldar race,
which in this analogy is irradiated China. With the warp storms gone, the Emperor came out of the shadows with a fuck huge army of super soldiers and absolutely wiped the floor with the techno-barbarians, making his space marine legions and going into the galaxy to save some humans and wreck some xenos shit. But that doesn't sound super strifey. I mean, I guess it does, especially considering his sons betrayed him and he ended up more disabled than a decapitated Stephen Hawking. But that comes later, and that's not what this video is about.
Nope.
So how does the Age of Strife continue to affect the setting to this day? The big one is the xenophobia. During the Dark Age of technology, mankind would readily ally with xenos or just let them do their thing. It was due to the huge amount of predatory xenos that began to raid humanity during the Age of Strife.
They're like, not hefty xenos.
Anything that wasn't one of them.
That makes sense.
Humans except for those fandoms that draw big titty Tau and Eldar girlfriends. What? I'm not a part of them. I'm not good enough at drawing. The Age of Strife also acted like a reset button for mankind's culture. The enlightened humanity of old was gone, replaced by an extremely diverse and cynical race of people.
Enlightened humanity of old
became king. Skulls started to adorn everything, and warriors started picking fashioned gear over functional. Humanity lost most of its STCs, and any fragments of it that they did find resulted in the massive wank fest, even if it was just an STC on the best way to buttered toast. The issue with this STC obsession is that mankind refuses to invent and innovate on its own, hence any technological advancements in the Imperium are due to the discovery of an STC or because Call performs some cheeky tech heresy. Without the Age of Strife, mankind would be significantly less willing to accept the harsh authoritarian regime that is the Imperium, but when the options are to become an insignificant cog in the wheel that is the Imperium or get raped by demons, it's not a hard sell.
No.
If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be.
Jeez.
For only $1 per month, give you access to a boatload of Warhammer hentai. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more strifey content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Majorkill is unapologetically himself, man. I keep seeing that more and more each video. But I like the topic. I found it very interesting. I just have some lore mixed up because I just watched right before this, the War in Heaven video, and it said, that there wasn't chaos gods at the time. I think that's what I heard. So I'm like, yo, when did they come? And then when did Slaanesh? I know when Slaanesh came, but in relation to the Slaanesh, when did the other three come? It's actually funny to talk about come when you talk about Slaanesh. And I now know there's a lot of lesser gods. Gods eat up gods, and I'm getting more of an idea of what gods are. There's gods of the material world. There's gods of the warp world. The warp wasn't as corrupt as it is today. It's people abusing the warp, dying and killing each other that made the warp this ugly, vile place. And I guess it just continues to get worse and continues to get stronger. Actually, I feel like that's the first thing that Bricky said early on when I was watching it, but I didn't get an idea. It's a snowball effect. Anyways, that's that. I learned some more, and I don't have anything too much to add. I see how your supply chains get messed up. So you have worlds. This is actually incredible because this actually connects to today. So they have these worlds that are only made to do one thing, so to speak, and then if they get disconnected from everything, those places don't know how to survive. That can be true in a certain sense, and many countries have learned this after COVID. But when you got cut off, you couldn't get your medical supplies from other countries because they were keeping it for themselves. So some countries started just trying to figure out how to bring supply chains closer to home. And we're seeing the same thing, or just recently with the tariffs that countries have deployed on one another, trying to create more things domestically. Yeah, man, because if some demon is us trying to get born and you can't sail goods across the ocean or use airplanes, you're going to have your supply chains close to home, man. You just never know what's going to happen. So shout out to the homie for being a visionary and enacting these tariffs so we can start making things closer to home just in case Slaanesh is born. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I'm trying to get this channel to 220,000 subscribers. That's our first big milestone. And actually 10,000. I should just say 10,000 first. But we're almost there. So let's say 20,000. I appreciate anyone who takes the time to subscribe. I'm Lee, and I am out. As always, thanks for supporting this channel. If you don't know, we do have a Patreon, and it's free to join. You can stay updated, suggest content, or vote on polls. If you're interested in our uncut and early reactions to anime, K-drama, Western shows, and movie reactions, which include exclusive reactions not found on YouTube, you can join the upper tiers on Patreon, or you can stick with the edited content right here on YouTube. We got Yaboyrocklee reactions also in the description of this video. Until next time, I'm out.